Do you hate mages? Do you want to make them scream as you nullify their build? Well, Witch Hunter Jerren can sort of do that, but I think we can take this build a lot further. So, let's create his cosplay build and see whether or not we can actually hunt some witches. But give it to me bite-sized otaku. So our outfit is the eccentric set, which comes with this awesome looking helmet and will boast a good defense and 41 poise, which is more than I expected for this set. Jerren uses the Flamberg, which is one of the best greatswords in the game, boasting a diverse range of weapon arts, a brilliant moveset, and passive bleed build-up, all in one beautiful weapon, and he uses Flaming Strike, which is just a cherry on the cake. I've opted to infuse this with Heavy for a physical option, which we can then buff with Fire after our weapon art. He also uses the Glint Blade staff to cast Magic Glint Blade, a spell which fires a delayed small sword towards the enemy, and I've opted for a split of Strength and Magic to help the damage on both of our spell and our weapons on the level 137 astrologer. And now, let's go and hunt some witches. So in PvE, we have a pretty good setup here, as we can combine the Magic Glint Blade with our sword to stack damage on enemies while dodging, and the Flaming Strike does fantastic damage at close range, while also buffing our weapon with fire for even more damage. The build is pretty simple in PvE, as you can just cast magic and swing your sword, so I'd say it's a solid build, which can be obtained pretty early if you're struggling to defeat bosses. But then in PvP, there's a bit more application we can get out of this, as our Glint Blade is fantastic for roll catching enemies when running them down with your sword, as they will have to dodge the Magic Glint Blade while also avoiding your strikes, sometimes getting hit by both. Flaming Strike will demolish most people with both the initial flame, which staggers at a really odd angle, followed by a strike with brilliant range, and this combines to create a deadly strategy. But what are our weaknesses? Well, we only have one spell, which means that our tactics will become predictable, and against dedicated spellcasters, we will be at a major disadvantage as we chase them around to deal damage, and our spell is quite slow against ranged opponents. We may also struggle against high poise setups which outdamage us on trades, but Flaming Strike will help to remove a number of weaknesses, except for the long range one, so let's focus on fixing that by making some adjustments. Let's add a Fire Infusion to our Flamberg for some extra damage right off the rip, and swap out our Carrion Glint Blade Staff for the Demi-Human Queen Staff, which will give us better sorcery scaling. For our spells, we'll keep the Magic Glint Blade, but also add in some others, which will turn us into an actual Witch Hunter and keep to the theme of the build, such as Ambush Shard, which is basically a reverse Magic Glint Blade, Loretta's Great Bow, which will be useful for long range attacks with style, and Eternal Darkness, which can absorb magic spells, nullifying most spellcasters we face. I've also added in the Shard of Alexander, the Erdtree's Favor +2, Stargazer Heirloom, and Radagon's Icon to speed up our casting time, with adjusted stats on a level 137 astrologer. And now we have a far better setup that can actually hunt witches, providing you can find any, using Eternal Darkness to absorb all magic for a time, while responding with our own, helping us deal with casters. And when you combine this with Loretta's Bow, you will have a ranged option with slight tracking to hone in on enemies and detonate on impact for damage. Ambush Shard works wonders as it strikes with magic from behind and deals decent damage as a stealthy attack, similar to Magic Glint Blade but without the delay. And of course we can utilise Flaming Strike to deal with close ranged opponents, shredding their health and putting them on the defensive. But to wrap things up, I'll leave you with some arena battles and the boss fight so you can see the build in its entirety. But of course leave your comments below and subscribe. This is Bite-Sized Otaku, and I hope you enjoyed.